Continue to focus on the Middle East region, where international mediators are now scrambling to broker a ceasefire. Israel and U.S. have sent high-level delegations to the Doha talks, but Hamas isn't there at the negotiating table. Israeli military, on the other hand, has launched one of the most heavy bombardment campaigns in Gaza, while Iran's supreme leader has issued an ominous warning. Our next report tells you more.
Amid a looming threat of a catastrophic regional flare-up, Iran's supreme leader Ayatollah Ali Khamenei thunders against compromise, invoking divine wrath while vowing to avenge the killing of Hamas chief Ismail Haniyeh on Iranian soil. This fiery rhetoric, coupled with Israel's intensified bombing campaign in Gaza, has set the stage for a potentially explosive confrontation. Israel has ramped up its military operations in Gaza. The Israeli Defense Forces claim to have struck over 30 Hamas targets, even as ceasefire talks resume in Doha. The humanitarian situation in Gaza remains dire, with the death toll exceeding 40,000, as reported by Hamas-run Health Ministry. Israeli forces have particularly intensified their assaults in the southern city of Khan Yunis. More than 10 months of war has driven almost all of its 2.3 million Gazans from their homes. Now there is a desperate desire for an end to the fighting.
They say ceasefire. There is no ceasefire. We pray to God that a ceasefire takes place, but we are not seeing any of this. There is no ceasefire at all. Every day people die. There are martyrs. They are cut into pieces. What would I say?
We hope that a solution is found, the war stops, and that people go back to their homes, even on the rubble. Stability is the most important thing.
In Israel, hostages' relatives are also anxious and urging the Israeli leadership to clinch a deal in Doha.
We need another hostage deal. Hostages get released via a hostage deal and not while fire is consuming. We need a ceasefire to get them all back. We cannot trust the Israeli government anymore. It has been torpedoing any effort to get a deal for the past 10 months.
Hamas, while not directly participating in the current ceasefire discussions, is expected to be consulted by mediators following the initial talks. A high-ranking Israeli delegation, including top intelligence officials, are engaged in crucial talks in Doha. With US warships, submarines and warplanes in the region to defend Israel and deter potential attackers, Washington is hoping a ceasefire agreement in Gaza can defuse the risk of a wider regional war.
We expect, just to give an update on what we expect to see tomorrow, obviously this week, we expect these talks to move forward as planned. Director Burns and Brett McGurk will both travel to Qatar for these discussions.
The clock is ticking. The success or failure of Doha talks could determine whether West Asia steps back from the brink of an all-out war or plunges into an abyss of conflict with global repercussions. Bureau Report, WION, World is One.
All right, joining us now from New York is Adrian Calamel, fellow at Arabian Peninsula Institute, terrorism and Middle East scholar, author of forthcoming book about Hezbollah. Adrian, welcome back to WION, and great to see you this morning. Well, Hamas is not at this negotiating table. What are the implications of this absence by this militant group?
It's great to be back and great to see you again, Susan. The implications are, I think we need to take a step back and look at see who's rejected every single peace deal, ceasefire deal, any type of initiative that's been put forward, and it's been Hamas. I think what they've been doing, I think what many of us have seen, it's to amp up the pressure on the Israeli government, the internal pressure from its own internal population, saying that you must secure some type of hostage deal which is tied to a ceasefire. The problem here is Hamas will not give up the hostages. They see them as leverage. And another added problem here is that with what we saw earlier with the hostage releases, when the hostages were released, and then there's been 2 individuals over the last couple of days that were released from Israeli prisons that were carrying out terror attacks after the release, and they were taken out just over the last 48 hours. So the recidivism rate is not good on these. Now with Qatar.
And Adrian, how?
Go ahead.
I'm so sorry. Go ahead.
No. I mean, with Hamas not being there, they're expecting Doha, Qatar to do their bidding for them. And really, who's doing the negotiating there? Is it Hamas? Is it Qatar, Doha, or is it the Islamic Republic? Are they the ones really kind of pulling the strings about any type of negotiations?
Yeah, that's so true. And how credible are threats coming from Iran? On the one hand, many believe that Iran is not going to retaliate on a large scale, not those spoiler attacks that it's used to doing. But on the other hand, it seems preparations are being made for a wide-scale assault by Iran or its proxies, Hezbollah maybe.
That's a great question. And it's what is the Islamic Republic thinking now? Playing to their strengths are in terrorism, asymmetric warfare. It's not conventional warfare. If you look at their last response, large-scale response, it was largely a failure where a lot of the rockets, I think like 50% or more, didn't even make it to their intended targets to Israel. Most of them were taken down by the Iron Dome. It was proven largely ineffective. Now, you can say they were probing effects by the Islamic Republic to check the Iron Dome, see how it operates. But they can't run the risk of sending another volley of missiles that everybody's worried about, and worried about Hezbollah's precision-guided missiles. But we start to call in the question, how good are these missiles? Are they as effective as they say they are? And does Tehran have a concern and say, you know what, we're going to move and shift and look at embassies? They targeted the embassy in New Delhi before, target Argentina before. So, we need to be looking at that as well.
Yeah, and finally, I guess something shifted after Benjamin Netanyahu was here in the United States meeting with President Biden and Vice President Harris. It seems that the bombing campaign against Gaza intensified. What are your thoughts about what policy Israel has decided to pursue? And just another question, what's the alternative to this so-called ceasefire that everyone's hoping for?
Well, great questions again, Susan. I really think that if you look at the situation, the way Israel is looking at it, it's been 10 months of warfare here. They've been very methodical about the way they've gone about it, try to minimize casualties, moving populations to safe humanitarian corridors, which obviously it's horrible for the Palestinian people being moved from one place to another, but it's been to mitigate deaths. The goal and why you've seen this increase in tempo by Israel, I think is largely in response to you see an increase in tempo from Hezbollah and the urgent, a need to finish the military objectives inside Gaza. And they are close to finishing them, where you see they maybe got one or two battalions left, only Sinwar's left, and their top leadership and command is really kind of on the run. The alternative to a ceasefire, and I really think this is the only solution, is that Hamas is never able to reconstitute a foothold in Gaza. It's like removing the ISIS caliphate, removing from Mosul and Raqqa. Yes, ISIS still presents a problem, but they don't have a safe sanctuary where they can receive funds, receive weaponry, don't hide among civilian populations, and carry out repeated attacks, which Hamas has stated they want to do over and over and over. And Israel just cannot let this happen.
For all the latest news, download the WION app and subscribe to our YouTube channel.